I need to rip out like all but one row that I've worked since I sat down because I forgot to decrease. Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you're having a really good day so far. If you're new here, my name's Taylor. I live in Baltimore City, and on my YouTube channel I feature content that's generally focused on knitting, sometimes spinning, but more often than not I'm catching you up on what I'm growing outside in my garden. And in this video, I'm gonna sit back and knit with you guys. I hope you have a project out already. If you haven't, maybe you wanna grab it and knit with me. I kept telling myself I would knit later, and I never got around to it each and every day, and so I feel quite far behind in my knitting goals, although I am still excited about what I'm working on, so it's not as if I'm just passionate about it. I've just devoted a lot more time this week to my garden, and I'll get to that in a minute. I'll just tell you, I'm working on my Kingston Cardigan. This is I've been carrying it in this basket here that just dropped on the floor. It's far outgrown this, it barely fits inside. But I'm working on this raglan shaped cardigan using Jill Draper Makes Stuff Kingston yarn, and it is a deep yoke design. So I am excited to wear it over other long sleeved garments or even sweaters, something that'll be perfect for layering and have the space it needs in the yoke, as well as the upper arm sleeves and forearm sleeves. So I'm drafting this pattern currently. I have the majority of the instructions written and all of the grading finished. I just have to kind of polish it up and get it ready for testing. So if you're interested in testing this pattern, I'm going to start to gather a forum that you can submit, probably in next week's video, to be honest. But if you're thinking about it, I'm using a worsted weight yarn. It says it's DK, but it's worsted. The gauge is, I think, 18 stitches. What's 4.5 times 4? That's 18 stitches. Times 27 rows makes 4 inches square. So that's the gauge of this project. It has these really cute 2x2 cross cables that mirror one another on both sides, and they travel, you can probably see it better on this side, they travel under the armpit and then cross over the side seam. So there's like a faux side seam with that little cable there. And it's worked flat, which I really enjoy, because with cables, you know, you're working in pattern every other row anyway. So by working flat, like, it's never a question on whether you need to cable or not. So it really did make cabling very simple. Sometimes when I'm working cables in the round, I forget to cable, and then I have to drop down and fix my cable, and it's a little frustrating. But I find that this pattern is quite easy to work. As I mentioned, I graded the pattern to be sized deeper in the yoke because that is my preference in general, but also especially for a cardigan to wear over other long sleeved garments. And I have it so far in 10 sizes. So I'm working the second to smallest size, which normally I work the smallest size in patterns. But the thing is that this garment, because it's made to be worn over other sweaters or long sleeve garments, it has about 10 inches of positive ease. I'm knitting the size 40 circumference with a 32-inch bust. So that's giving me 8 inches of positive ease, which I feel like is appropriate for my figure. I think, you know, depending on the size, in my mind, it's appropriate to keep a certain ratio of ease. So like 10 inches on a 60-inch bust is going to be a totally different ratio of ease to body than 10 inches on a 32-inch bust, right? So I took a couple inches off the ease for myself because you know, it's everyone's personal preference. Some people like things that fit them rather large, and some people prefer things that are a little bit more fitted. And I wanted to give anybody the option to choose the garment that fits them the way they want to. So I'm knitting the second smallest size, that's 40 inches. I think that the smallest size is about, I can't recall at this point now, but I think it might be 38 inches. So, you know, if you're a 30-inch bust, that was my stomach growling. I haven't had breakfast yet. But if you're a 30-inch bust, you can knit a garment with 8 inches of positive ease instead of the entire 10. So there's that. And it goes up to 70 inches total circumference. So 10 sizes. I'm excited to get this finished. I'm really wanting to have it done and then spend time on the pattern. I don't think I touched the pattern this entire week. I spent the majority of my time working on it last week, and I really had to put the brakes on it because my order from rareroots.com arrived. This video is not sponsored, but I did reach out to them. I let them know I was going to tell you all about this and show it to you, and they threw in a couple extra plants, which was very generous. And I want you to know they do have, for every person online, for your first time order, they have a 20% off coupon, which I took advantage of many months ago when I placed my order, and I can't believe I saved 20% on everything I got. I bought a lot of plants and they arrived and I planted them out, and my backyard is just, I mean, it's exploding with color now. It's so much fun to have the shadiest part of our yard finally planted out with perennials that will come back year after year. They were very well packaged. So well, and so many plants to unpack. It took quite a bit of time, and I will link below to Rare Roots so you can check them out. They are a nursery in the state of Virginia, which I really liked because it's always best to find plants that are kind of grown up and established in areas similar to your own climate. Virginia is not far from Maryland. I think obviously we share a border, so they were somewhat of a local, you know, online plant delivery system for me. But they also sold a lot of shade perennials that I really couldn't find anywhere else. Today is April 16th, 2022. This is the state of our backyard garden. And I have put a lot of work into turning the compost bed. I've turned out a bunch of compost into this bed here and the right side bed where I've planted all of my perennials from rareroots.com. Here we have a couple perennials coming back from previous years. I have a white echinacea and 3 pink echinacea in the front of those, sage bush there. And I put a new climbing rose in the ground just a few weeks ago. So she's putting on a little bit of growth. I have here some black-eyed Susans. I don't know if they'll actually thrive in this area because once the cucumbers grow up the trellis, they are shaded enough to succumb to the powdery mildew that is common in shaded full sun perennials. But here we have our shade garden. This is about the most amount of sun they get. And I'm at a loss of words. It brings me so much joy to see so much color in an area that has just been bare for a very long time at this point. I do plant beans and cucumbers up these trellises, so the area just in front of those are still clear for planting them out. I tried to space everything out as well as I could. There's a little bit of crowding here because at the last minute I snuck this plant in the back. This is one of those bonus plants that I got, these bleeding hearts, and I thought color-wise it made the most sense to put them sort of in a back row since I do have those chartreuse hostas in the front rows. I tried to plant them out in a bit of a pattern. I don't know if you can tell. It's probably not perfect, but it's my first go around. I can always move things later. But I think that the Japanese painted ferns give a really unique color to this planting, and every single plant in here except for these 2 kind of black heucheras, which I propagated from a larger plant I have in my garden. Everything in here except those two plants are from rare root. These are the Solomon seal I talked about. I'm really excited to have. I think this variety is so gorgeous. They have these little flowers you can't quite see, but these should get like 20 inches or so. So everything in here is going to grow up and be, you know, crowding one another basically. But I have a third blueberry bush here, and my calendula are starting to bloom. The raspberries are exploding. The blackberries I spaced out. I don't know if you can see, I'll zoom in for you, but I used these little stem supports to kind of spread them out so they won't hang into the garden like they typically do, and I think that's a better solution than zip tying them to the fence. The black raspberries are growing, and I planted a couple random little plants in the corner here in front of the forsythia. This is a gorgeous little fuchsia plant that I picked up at random and popped into this hanging container along with a few other things. I had an extra little viola and calendula plant. So the nasturtiums look a little ragged, but I think everything will kind of fill out in time. This is a kind of random bed of perennials that I've planted out, and I got a little like 12 pack of violas. They're sort of hidden, but I think that the daffodils are going to fizzle out very soon, and I don't know how long the others are going to hang on, but the calendula will stick around for a few months. It might fizzle out once the sun gets real hot, but I'm just so in love with all these little plants I'm collecting here and there. I'm trying not to keep it too random of a garden, but it's a bit of a cottage style. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. These are my containers. I have stinging nettle and collard greens. I try to grow the things that I'm going to eat raw, like leaf-wise, in containers because I just know the soil is clean. It doesn't have any heavy metals. The lemon balm and the peppermint are doing well. This is that heuchera plant that I mentioned I propagated from. Other than that, I've been busy establishing new garden beds in my neighbor's yard. They gave me the green light to start planting out in their space. I said to them, I only want to grow exactly what you want. I only want to build a garden that is of your preference. And Alan said to me, all I want is nothing to do with it. And so I think that's a bit of a leap of faith. It's going to be not the most beautiful garden for a while because right now it just looks like piles and piles of leaves. But I did establish 2 beds, one on each side, and then I'm kind of leaving it open right now to decide how the rest of the layout will be established. It's pretty much to be determined at this point. I did spend a lot of time last night. I mean, I spent many hours this week alone preparing the beds as they are now. Last night I was digging up a lot of leaves and worms and a lot of soil that's already been built in the kind of gutter across the street from us. So I'm just trying to make the most out of what's available right now. I'm thinking about coordinating a chip drop to establish an area under the table where it could just be a little bit more neat and a little more tidy underfoot. I wonder what your thoughts are. I would love to know your opinion on this. Brian thinks that the wood chips are going to get in people's shoes. I don't know. I would rather have wood chips underfoot than dirt on my shoes, but I could be wrong. I wonder what your thoughts are. I think that this summer I'm going to try growing watermelon and cantaloupe and squash. Those are plants that I just haven't had space or sunlight to grow in my own area. Their yard gets a lot more sun than ours does. So I think that those are crops that will do well. I've heard once before that watermelon grows better in less rich soil, like it kind of prefers lesser quality soil. I could be wrong, but I think I've heard that before, and I thought that might be a good crop to, you know, make the first round in these beds. And I really love watermelon. I mean, it's my favorite summer fruit. I eat at least one large watermelon every week when it's in season. But yeah, and I'm gonna grow my tomatoes out front again this year. I'm really excited to plant those out on Wednesday. I cannot wait until this garden is established and everything we've been growing indoors is outside. I started 2 new seed trays though. We expanded the tomatoes so they had a little bit more room to grow upward. I'm gonna try to bury those stems as deep as I can to, you know, make sure that they're, I don't know. They've gotten quite big. I started them a little too soon. I have some regrets about that, but you know, you live and you learn. And oh, I also went to the thrift store this week. I was on my way home from work on a Thursday. My friend Olivia called me. She said she was on her way to the thrift store. She moved to Rochester, New York a few months ago. And I decided impulsively I would go to the thrift store also, and we could shop together while in each other's earbuds. And I had a lot of fun, mostly because, well, I never really get to hang out with Olivia, so it was nice to like spend time together even though we were apart. But Thursdays are 25% off, which I never knew because I never really go thrifting on a weekday. So I saved quite a bit of money because I spent a whole lot. There's a few pairs of pants I am going to return and exchange because they let you do that now that the fitting rooms are closed. But I did get 2 new pairs of pants and a new shirt. I'm actually wearing one new outfit now. I'll give you a look of what I'm wearing. I'll just insert a clip here. And I got 2 sets of vintage floral plates, a couple little vases for my bouquets this summer. I picked up a sweet little spring themed pillow for the couch and a framed puzzle. I'll insert a little bit of footage of those things so you can check them out. And one thing that I've noticed is that it is increasingly difficult to find vintage towels at the thrift store. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I've been buying these types of towels the last 20 years. Every time I go to the thrift store, I look for them. I never find them anymore. It's like they've all been bought. And any that could have been donated have been donated, it seems. These are just more and more rare to find. And I'm not sure, I mean, I do know why, it's because they're gorgeous, but I don't know if I'll ever find them again. I wonder if you come across these at your thrift store. But I have made a fair bit of progress on the sleeve since I sat down. I guess I've knit about 3-4 inches. So it's been a really productive week. It's just that I haven't knit much and I feel quite guilty about that because I really want to have this sweater done because the sooner the sweater's knit, the sooner the pattern will be complete and I'll have it out in testing and cast on another project. I know I talked about starting Stephen West's bubble cardigan. The more I work on this, the less I think about that, but one day soon I will pick that up and cast it on. I do have to knit a swatch, and when I'm so eager to finish this, I have no motivation to swatch for something. At this point right now, I'm decreasing the sleeves, and so it's exciting because I only have to knit 5 rows before I'm decreasing, and there's always that next decrease to look forward to. I am marking my decreases with a stitch marker each and every time, and on what I'm using as a progress keeper, I have prepared all the stitch markers I will need to decrease the entire sleeve. So I'm not distracted by wanting to count how many more I need. It's already counted out for me in advance. So I'm just being mindful to continue marking my decrease so that I don't forget to decrease after 5 rounds. I have forgotten to decrease a few times since I've sat down to knit today. I've wasted a few rows in doing that, but this worsted weight yarn knits up pretty fast. I think that is going to be it for today's podcast. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you want to find me on social media, my name is Taylor E. Owen on Ravelry, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find me on TikTok as Taylor Knits. And I think that's it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.